Very good morning to all. This lecture is about cloud-based application development and management. Myself, Dr. Sachin Sharma, and the code for this course is TCS 552. We are discussing unit number 4, the cloud management. And today we'll discuss about the cloud policy and governance, risk management and regulatory practices. What is effective governance, risk and compliance, and why the organization need the effective governance with low risk to maximize the benefit of cloud deployments. They want to mitigate risk, and the organization and companies need to prioritize their cohesive approach to governance, risk management and compliance. In short, we call it GRC. A cloud governance framework can automate cloud security, risk and compliance workflows, which enable stakeholder reporting and visibility and ensure best practice and standards for cloud compliance. As you can think that an organization who is providing multiple services, if they lack in governance, if they lack in the automation of the services, their revenue will impact. Also, the organization, they don't want to take a high risk. To keep that thing in mind, the organization put a lot of efforts to make the effective governance with low risk and compliance. There are 5 recommendations to ensure a proper governance, risk and compliance framework for cloud assets and operations. The first one is improve cloud asset service visibility, which means our organization who is providing different type of cloud services, that should be visible and the customer should be able to reach to the service, and the approachability of the cloud service should be easier to the customer. Number 2, assess the cloud service providers CSP continuously. It is very important in terms of assessing the risk. If our organization assesses the cloud service provider continuously, that helps them to see the progress and provide the more control on the services. The third recommendation is assign business ownership and accountability for critical cloud asset and services. For example, in lifetime of the cloud service, there are a lot of feedback comes from customer side, right? So to make sure that whatever issues are raising from the customer side, each issue is taken care by the organization. If they are not able to provide such kind of customer support and they failed to solve the customer queries, then the question rise on accountability. The fourth recommendation is know the cloud threat landscape and evaluate risk. This threat can be related to the security or privacy. And if any organization fails to evaluate the risk, they will be in trouble. So it is very important for the cloud service provider to evaluate the risk, and this should be able to analyze the cloud threat which is existing or which may come in future. The fifth recommendation is leverage standard risk control frameworks to assess compliance. An organization cannot play with the standard. They have to maintain the standards. If they manipulate the standards, then the organization will be in trouble. So these are the 5 recommendations to make sure the GRC is up to mark. And what is GRC? G for governance, R for risk, and C for compliance. Here is a view graph that how the cloud service life cycle and what are the factors which is important. So we start from the deployment and the life cycle. Then the next component is management and monitoring, which is very important to earn the accountability and ensure the reliability. Operations and support, and security and privacy. All these 4 components, they are synchronized with each other and they maintain the services which are deployed on infrastructure or virtualization platform, operating system which is not mandatory for every application or platform or user behavior or business activity. So it depends. Based on the business activity, the organization decide whether the operating system is required or they are going to use something which is already available on the platform, or if there is need of any other operating system, then they deploy on their existing platform. There are few examples of cloud governance. For example, for CGI.1, the focus area is compliance, and the objective of this cloud governance item is CP 1.1, understand the compliance drivers and the activity which is related to the cloud. It is responsible to establish a comprehensive compliance scan system and capable of identifying and reporting on regulatory incidents. And CISO, it receives regular report on high confidence matches to US SSN numbers, is able to provide them to auditors upon demand. US SSN number is something, SSN is for social security number. It is there in United States to verify the identity. It is similar like Aadhaar card, which is linked to the PAN card and every financial transaction that a citizen of India does. Same with United States citizen, whatever they do, it is stored on their SSN. So CGI.2, it is also related to the compliance, and this based on the compliance scan reporting system put its place in CGI.1, and it had enforcement controls capable of remediating non-compliant behaviors. And the information security teams writes policy that automatically remove externalization ACL entries on files containing regulated data. So CJ.3, that's focus area is end user accountability and awareness, and it establishes user focused remediation and notification mechanism which originate from policy violations, and it uses the user driven nature of the cloud to require data owners to acknowledge and control their own information in terms of organizational AUPs. The good example for this is email notification is sent to the owner of a file when they share outside of the boundaries of established acceptable use policy. For example, if user is not recommended to use their official ID for their personal communication, if they do so, it is recognized and trigger is initiated, and it is kind of alert to the organization that there are some user or some employee they are going above the policy, so that matter needs to be take care of. So data classification system put into the place that highlights potentially sensitive data to those owners within their existing file structure, or maybe that data is related to the core organization, right? And if the data is shared with the competitors, that may affect the revenue of the existing organization. So it is very important to keep track on every file which is going outside the organization, and for that regulations policy is important. So CJ.4, that focus area is vendor third-party risk management. It regularly audits all third-party vendors who have provisional auth access to the cloud domain and remove or control risk based on API scope, community trust rating, and breach notifications. And the good example for this is the information security team, which establish third-party risk policies and automatically revokes any application granted access that is not reviewed or approved. By using this, they can actually restrict those people who are not in the system and who are not supposed to be in the system. This is good view graph of data governance, which has three main components: the technology, people, and process. And how this data governance has related to each other: the ownership, accessibility, security, quality, and the knowledge. So basically there are 5 major components and 3 specific components: people, process, and technology. And through ownership, accessibility, security, quality, and knowledge, they are connected to each other. This is a good view graph of AWS GRC. So as you see here, that has many components. We start with the system authorization, which they follow NIST, RMF, ISO, and COBIT, and they follow the categorized system, which select controls, implement controls, assess controls, authorize system, and continuously monitor system, and they follow the same flow. On top of that, they do have risk assessment at 3 layers: tier 1 at organizational level, tier 2 business lines, and tier 3 which has assets, for example systems and people. And the continuous compliance, continuous improvement is there by following the secure system, responsible workforce, risk informed decisions, and resilient organization. There are 4 main components: monitoring, self-assess, external audits, and reporting. So the monitoring is happening to make sure threat landscape, implemented controls, and insider behavioral analysis. The self-assess is done to see the systems, process, and audit preparation, External audit is related to the regulatory audits, standard audits such as ISO, contractual audits such as PCI, and the reporting is done internal reporting and regulatory bodies reporting and the customers reporting. All three types of reporting is there on AWS. On the left side we'll see there are statutory and regulatory bodies who relates to the laws, statutes and regulations, standards by provided ISO and NIST. They both organization provides the standards, policies. AWS has organizational policy, information technology policy, information security policy. The contract and commitments, PCI, customer contracts and B2B agreements, all three relates to the contracts. Process and procedures, NIST, CSF, ISO and organizational, they do have standards and they do have procedures and process defined. So this is what AWS follows. And when we talk about the controls, they do have three type of controls: administrative control, physical control and technical control. So this is actually GRC of AWS. The governance has statutory, regulatory, standard, policies, contracts, commits, process, procedure, controls. The risk has risk assessment, categorize systems, select controls, implement them, assess them, authorize system, continuously monitoring the system. And the compliance consists of the monitoring, self-assess, external audits and reporting. This is another view graph of cloud governance. The policy and compliance consist of the internal goals and objectives, external legislation and regulation, the risk which has inherent exposure, vulnerabilities and threats, audit which has external legislation and regulation, internal verification and validation, vendor risk which has assess, rate and monitor external vendors. So this is very important. GRC of every organization is very important. They have to be very careful about their GRC. And that's it for the day. I hope you have enjoyed the lecture. Thank you.